Hi everybody, this is Saad for the Saad Truth. Some of you may have heard of the following two behavioral economic games. The first one is known as the Ultimatum game. This is where you bring in two people into the lab, say you call them players A and B, and you give player A, say $10, and you say split that $10 in any way that you'd like with player B. No discussion, no negotiation, no communication. Whatever the split is, if player B accepts that split, then both players receive the actual amount. So for example, if player A says, I'm going to keep $6 and I'll give player B $4, if player B accepts that split, then you as the experimenter will give them their respective splits. If player B says, no, I don't accept that split, then they both get nothing. From a strict homo economicus perspective, from a axioms of rational choice perspective, then whatever is the smallest possible denomination that the $10 are expressed in, let's say the $10 are in quarters, so you have 40 quarters constituting the $10, then you should give the smallest possible denomination. So you should give 25 cents to player B, because from the perspective of player B, the utility of receiving a quarter is greater than the utility of receiving nothing, and therefore if we adhere to that axiom of rational choice, then that's what the behavior should be. But of course, we know that these axioms of rational choice are stylized models of human behavior. They don't necessarily correspond to how we truly behave, hence the schism between behavioral economists and, say, classical economists. And so we know that people respond angrily to unfairness. And so, as you might expect, typically the behavior in the ultimatum game is to have an even split, as you would intuitively expect. And now the dictator game is another game that's slightly different from the ultimatum game. The dictator game basically works as follows. You give player A $10 and he or she simply makes the final determination as to how much he or she will share with player B. That's why it's called a dictator game, because he's simply dictating whatever the final split is going to be. Player B doesn't have a rebuttal, doesn't have a say. And so from a strict, again, axiom of rational choice, you would expect that player A will give nothing to player B. Typically these people don't know each other. But of course, people care about their reputations, people care about impression management, and so not surprisingly, people give, if they are player A, they give a larger sum than zero. Again, violating, if you'd like, the standard a priori rational choice expectation. And so I came along a few years ago with one of my doctoral students, Tripat Gill, and we argued that one of the variables that should impact the size of these offers is the sex makeup of the dyads. So if you have player A and player B, you have basically 4 possible sets of sex combinations. So player A could be male, so can player B. So you could have male, 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 female, female, male, and female, female. Those are the 4 possibilities. And we argued, using principles from evolutionary psychology, that the size of the offers in both games would really matter for the case where player A is a male, because from the perspective of player A, whether he is generous in his offer or competitive in his offer will depend on whether he's playing against a woman, in which case he's likely to exhibit cues of generosity, or he'll be intrasexually competitive and will offer smaller splits if his opponent is a male. On the other hand, we theorize that when player A is female, then her behavior will be indistinguishable irrespective of whether she's playing against a male or female. In other words, women would be equally fair whether they're playing against, whether player B is male or female. So only in the case of men, when they are player A, will they behave differently as a function of whether their opponent is male or female. And that's exactly what we found across both studies. Men, of course, are very strategic when it comes to resource-based cues. Now, this doesn't mean, by the way, that women amongst themselves can't also be very competitive. But in this case, we're talking about the allocation of resources. And this is where, if you like, this currency, literally this currency, is going to have a differential effect on men's behavior more so than on women's behaviors. The Ultimatum game paper was published in a journal called the Journal of Bioeconomics, and the Dictator game was published in Applied Economic Letters. I'll put links to both of those papers at the bottom of the descriptor of this clip, and I'll also put a link to a Psychology Today article that I had written where I had described these findings. So this clip today demonstrates how we can take principles from evolutionary psychology to help us better understand phenomena in the context of behavioral economic games. Hope you enjoyed this clip. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already, and consider supporting the channel through Patreon. Have a great end of the week. Talk to you soon. Ciao.